Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, good whatever time of day it is. Thank you for tuning in to Conversations with Dr. Don. The show is produced and broadcast from the Portland, Oregon area. For your first-time viewers, Conversations with Dr. Don is an ongoing series of one-hour standalone talk shows where I interview interesting people, like most of you out there, about who they are as unique, one-of-a-kind individuals and about whatever it is we've decided to talk about. And this evening, we've decided to talk about so many things, I had to make a list of them, because my guest this evening is, again, Pat Finn. Pat Finn, and he comes haunting back to the show again. He's been on, I lost count of how many times he's been on the show, every 5 or 6 years or so.
6 times.
Six times. You keep count that well, huh?
Yeah. Single digits.
You know, there's something about you that always has you coming back on again because you stay current with what's going on in the world. Plus, you dig up old stuff that I've enjoyed the stories you tell about it, so I have to bring you back to have you talk about trains and space launches and Apollo and that sort of a thing anymore. But I've got some new topics for you to consider after you leave 10 minutes or so for other topics.
Okay.
How are you feeling right now?
Good.
Good?
Yeah.
Are you sure?
Yeah.
I never noticed this before. You've got a dent in your forehead right above there above your left eye. What happened? Train wreck?
I got hit by my sister when I was about 9 years old.
She figured you out then, huh?
She took my head, and actually I was 5, because when I was 9, she pushed me off a barbed wire fence and whacked me into the corner of the piano. It was my first concussion. I remember her yelling at me, telling me to get up, you know, blood's all over the place and stuff.
I haven't noticed that all this time because I'm so fascinated by your Irish eyes.
Yeah, well, my hairline is receding as I get older.
There's other spaces too where you're getting old, but anyhow.
It happens.
Anyhow, I didn't tell you how I feel.
Pardon?
I didn't tell you how I'm feeling.
Good. Are you doing good?
I'm not going to tell you.
Okay.
I don't trust you with it.
All right.
Okay. So I'm going to see a little personal stuff bio about who you are. You've done this so many times, you've got it done by accident. But let's see if you can summarize rather briefly all the stuff you said before. Of course, we're doing a lie detector test here to see if you're lying from the first time you're on the show.
We don't have to do UA, I'm okay. Now, I was raised Catholic. When we moved from Portland to Tigard, we went to St. Anthony's for a couple of years. The nuns were mean, and then in high school I was a Mormon for a little while because my girlfriend was Mormon. So her parents wouldn't let me date her unless I joined the church, which was interesting.
Did they find out about you then?
They already knew. I took her to her first Grateful Dead concert. She got to meet Bill Walton.
Mm.
Yeah, October 3rd, 1977. At the Paramount. It was a Sunday. Right after church, we went down there and took the TriMet. You know,
what a memory. This is disgusting. I can't remember what it had for breakfast this morning.
Well, you know, it happens.
So anything significant besides your being a Catholic? Did you ever change or go back to being a Mormon or what?
No, my attitudes towards religion changed. I think there is some type of higher power out there, but organized religion is just there to, it's kind of like Amway, they're just there to con you, to take your money. Make you feel guilt so you pay more.
Higher power, is that a memory from your doping up days? Higher power?
Just a combination of everything I've learned from interacting with people, reading. There's something out there. I mean, you know, like when I had my car accident, there was a voice in my head said, "It's over now, get out of the car."
So that's a higher power.
Yeah, it's, you know, I have had angels, I think, protecting me. They did a couple times at work on the train. It got a little dicey there, so it got me out of a bad situation.
How many years were you playing around with trains?
37 years.
37 years?
Altogether.
That's impossible. Nobody stayed that long with a profession.
Well, there's some guys. Well, we had 2 people last year that checked out that were 75 still working.
No kidding.
Yeah, they've been working since high school. I mean, some of them went to Vietnam, came back, but, you know, they maintained the seniority. It's a fun job. I mean, I miss it. I wish I could do it like once a month. You know? I don't miss management, though.
So what are you doing now that you're retired?
Well, I work out, I read, And I'm trying to figure out what my third act is. I think since Kamala Harris is, yesterday has announced that she's going to run for president, I'm going to work on her campaign when they open up an office.
Are you some kind of a socialist? Kamala Harris? She's a lefty, isn't she?
Nah, she's an honest individual.
Okay. Do you have a partner?
Right now? No.
Boyfriend, girlfriend? You got a boyfriend?
No, I like women. I'm in between dates right now.
You're always in between dates, Pat.
Anyhow, there's somebody I like. I've gone out a couple times with her. We're going hiking here next week.
You're going to let her know who you're talking about? Or you're going to mention her name?
No. Always protect the innocent.
How about your political persuasion? Do you know yet where you are on the political continuum?
Well, I definitely hate the Republican Party. That's why I bought the screw represents the Republican Party.
That is a boat.
It's a screw.
A boat has a head on it, a hex head, and a screw has a flat head.
Well, according to Home Depot, I picked out this box today. This thing costs $1.96 for one of these things. You know.
You're going to take it back when the show is over?
No, you can have it.
Okay.
I'm a registered Democrat.
You're registered as a Democrat?
Yes.
How long have you been associated with the Democratic Party?
Since I was able to vote, 19.
There's no difference between the Democratic Party and the Republican Party, bottom line. They're right-wingers from the way back, whether they're leaning more one way than the other.
They both lie to you and take your money, okay? Some do for social cause, some for the war machine, and which is going on right now.
But Nancy Pelosi has just agreed with Trump's decision to overthrow the government of Venezuela. Wow. She's a Democrat.
Yes.
So there's no difference between the Democrats and Republicans.
They're all capitalists.
That's right. What's wrong with socialism?
It just doesn't work. It didn't work in Russia. It's not working in Turkey. You know, they have their own form of communist socialism in China. That's not going to work.
Well, can't that be count as a socialist state? What's going on in China?
Yes, it's a socialist state.
Well, why aren't you a socialist?
I don't believe. I think you should have your own individual path in this world, and I don't think the government should spy on you all the time, tell you what to do.
Are you a Buddhist? Path?
You know, I sometimes believe in the Buddhist philosophy. There's a lot of interest in it. I have a friend of mine who's a Buddhist, and I've been talking to him a lot at the gym.
Uh-huh.
And you know, it could be my next direction. You know, I'm still searching for what's out there.
Yeah.
You know?
Memberships in political, social, or civic organizations that does not have you on somebody's list in Washington.
I'm sure I'm on somebody's list. I'm sure the FBI file's pretty big on me too.
Yeah.
I'll try to keep a low profile.
How about anybody from the past or alive today? Any persons come to mind that you look up to or admire?
I have a couple.
Name a couple of them.
Wallace Shaw was one of the original 7 astronauts.
You're already jumping into space travel too soon.
Patton.
Patton?
Patton was good.
Yeah. Military man.
Yes. He was also very religious.
Yeah.
His brother was Episcopalian minister.
How many times have you seen that movie, Patton?
I just saw it a couple weeks ago.
Again?
9. I've read every one of his books, you know, the books about Patton, and some of his war letters. His letters to Beatrice, his wife.
Romo, you magnificent son of a gun. I read your book.
Yeah, he used his own strategies against him.
Yeah.
Yeah. We could use a Patton right now. Obviously, we failed in Afghanistan and Iraq.
Will we send him to Venezuela to take care of that situation?
And that's going to be gunboat diplomacy. United States Navy is going to go in there with the F-18s and take care of business.
We did take care of business in Latin America some years ago, but then something's going wrong now. We're having to start off all over again, overthrowing legitimate democracies a la Fidel Castro.
Well, Fidel, you know, kind of double-crossed some of the rich families of the East. You know, they had gambling casinos down there, and they kind of isolated him.
Isolated him? How
Well-
long does he have to be around when you say he isn't isolated anymore?
Well, Cuba's still isolated, but should be getting free trade in there because Castro's gone. And
Free trade? What's that?
well, free trade according to the Americans is in
Oh,
our
okay.
favor. Everything has to be in U.S.'s favor.
Okay, how about persons from the past or alive today that you particularly dislike?
This guy right here. we got him in his box.
Precious, that's precious.
Maybe we should turn him this way so he can look at his wall.
All right. What is doing good? What does that mean?
For yourself or for your fellow man?
Doing good.
Everybody should do good. When I was at work, I always tried to make the yard I was working in better than when I left it than when I got there. You know, when I was a child, we always had a big garden. We used to give the surplus down to the Blanchet house for the homeless people.
Mm-hmm.
Shelters. You should, always try to be kind to people, like your sign says. You know, I hand out dollars when I'm down at.
Say that again?
What?
You said something about doing good.
You should always do good. You should always do good.
Give
for
me
your
an
benefit.
example of you are doing good, Pat.
Well, once a month there's a church in Beaverton that I donate food. At certain times of the year I donate clothing, socks, underwear, used jackets.
How come you're never good to me?
I talk to you every time I see you at the gym.
I know. And I try to avoid you, but it doesn't work.
You do. Actually, you're moving a little slower so I can catch up to you.
Sure. Yeah, thanks a lot.
Oh.
All right, maybe we should stop. What do you think of the mainstream media? Mainstream in American definition. Is it left or right or center or what?
It's all over the place. I mean, it's like a smorgasbord of dysfunction.
It's well, I'm talking about in terms of left or right. That continuum. The mainstream media, is it more left or more right or what? My own opinion is that it is right wing, really right wing, but it's hidden under its cover of coming across as being all over the place.
Okay, well, from my opinion, Fox News is completely conservative, white ring, Republican, rich propaganda.
Mm-hmm. What about MSNBC or PBS?
PBS is probably the most fair out there to try to get both sides of the story. NSBC, obviously, they're more of a Democratic flair to them.
You keep using those terms which I don't subscribe to anymore. Democrat or Republican. Boy, they've got you all hoodwinked. What thought or memory makes you smile unexpectedly? Just as you're going along in your day, and something happens, crosses your evil mind, and it makes you smile.
I have a couple.
Don't mention any girls' names.
You know, I think about one of the greatest things I ever saw was Apollo 15 take off, July 26, 1971. And then I'm going to tell you the story. It's the dumbest thing I've ever done in my entire life. You cannot do this anymore. This is
I'm listening.
This is 1967. I have left the Boy Scouts. I've joined the Sea Scouts, and we have our little boat. And they used to leave us there on the weekend on Columbia Boulevard. And this is before the first hijacking, which was in the summer of '68, remember, in Beirut, Lebanon.
Columbia Boulevard, what city?
Portland,
Okay.
along the Columbia River.
Yeah.
So we decided to hop the fence at the Portland airport because I was watching the guard go around in his little light. This was a white station wagon with the little light on as he went down in checkered. And so we were running around the runways, and we decided it'd be a great idea to lay down on the runway and have a jet take off over our head. And at that time, United Airlines, they had the big DC-8 Super 61. They hadn't been flying the 747 yet. So we lay down on the runway, and we see this United Airlines, because it's going to Chicago, big little box turn. And this thing is coming at us, barreling down the runway. And I'm laying down, and I look up like, oh, this thing looking good. You know, I got my ears plugged. And this thing was last minute pivot and took off. We were so close that you couldn't see anything but the jet. You couldn't see around the wings. And I could see the tires spinning because the landing gear hadn't been retracted yet in the wheel wear. I'm going, I am never going to do anything as stupid again. I think about that every now and then.
You should.
You know, it cracks me up that I was so lucky to get away with that. And if you did it now, you'd be arrested.
You should be. You should have been arrested a long time ago.
Probably.
All right, so let's start with the bio stuff on you, and then we'll go to some of these other topics here that I mentioned before the show camera started rolling. I talked about some families of things that you might be interested in talking about, but I'd like to talk about a little more about the space travel and boosters and that sort of a thing. But anyhow, we'll talk about Trump and tyranny, American fascist state, Fidel Castro and Venezuela, Israel. Any of those come to mind for you?
Israel. I mean, you know, there's the two worst countries in the Middle East. I know people are going to hate me, is Saudi Arabia and Israel, and they're supposed to be our allies. Well, very oppressive. I mean, there's a little picture here. Can you see this? This is America's foreign policy, and see this woman right here? She's 12 years old. She only weighs 28 pounds. She's from Yemen. And what's happening is the American taxpayer is paying the Saudi Arabia pilots, and they attack at 15,000 feet, so they have a lot of collateral damage. We actually tank their airplanes, so because they don't have the F-15 and have the range to go all the way to Yemen, bomb them, come back.
You said tank the airplanes. You mean refuel them?
Yeah, refuel them in the air, and then our own servicemen, subcontracted out, are servicing the F-15 because Saudi Arabia doesn't know how to do it, and we're paying for that. And we're not getting anything out of it. Those people are dying over there.
What, aren't we getting something out of it? There's some reason we're doing it.
Oh, ISIS?
So is ISIS still around?
Well, they keep saying it is. It's just American oppression, imperialism.
So why is America so involved in being sure that Israel stays around and is a separate state?
Well, Israel owns half of Congress and Senate, thanks to AIPAC.
Oh, yeah.
You know, their lobbyist group. It's the most richest lobby group in the United States. So they buy off politicians. But their own guy, Netanyahu, he's in a little bit of financial and legal problems too over there.
So Israel exists for a reason. Is Israel an extension of American hegemony around the world? Is it America has a key spot in the Middle East to be sure its imperialism is in domination and competing with the Soviet Union?
Yes. It's a chess game. That's why in 1953 the United States government, with the CIA's help, overthrew the parliament and prime minister of Iran and put the Shah in power.
Oh,
because they didn't want Russia to come in and take the oil. All wars fought over money and drugs.
How's your drug habit anymore?
I don't have one. I watch too many people make bad decisions due to dependency on drugs and alcohol. At work, life, as a wearer, you know, their life was a mess.
Yeah. So talking about drugs, how about the drug traffic over the border where Trump wants to put up a wall to stop the drugs from coming into America?
Well, it's not going to stop it. I mean, there's a big trial going on with El Chapo in New York. Shows that, you know, the wall isn't going to stop anything. A lot of the drugs are coming in from the port of entry around the United States and also from the Canadian border. I mean, there's places in the United States you can be on one foot, it's on North Dakota, and if it's on the Canadian border, I mean, you could bounce back and forth and nobody's there. It's not going to stop it, and part of the reason is the upper 10% of the income bracket of the United States like to use cocaine. You know, if they stop using cocaine, the drug traffic would slow down.
All right, let's take a break earlier, and then we'll get to some of these other topics because there's so many things to talk about. We're going to need 2 more hours extra. Okay, we are back now. For you people who missed the opening of the show, for you viewers who missed the opening of the show, Conversations with Dr. Don is an ongoing series of one-hour standalone talk shows where I interview interesting people like most of you out there, like Pat Finn here. And we're going to talk about other things that we've been talking about before the camera started rolling. And we've talked about Trump's, we talked about trains and rocketry and that sort of a thing. So now we're going to get down to the important stuff here about Donald Trump, your hero.
Donald Trump is the most arrogant, ignorant person I have ever seen in my entire life.
Bandy Lee, a psychiatrist who had a comment about Trump scaring the citizenry, and he is mentally unraveling. I referred to them to the local emergency room without inquiring much further. It would seem that matters are far worse than even Donald Trump's fiercest critics have suggested. As the entire world has noticed, on Wednesday, the New York Times published an op-ed that is without precedent in American history for what it suggests about a sitting president. Assuming this is not part of a gaslighting campaign or an effort to uncover Trump's enemies in his inner circle, which is not out of the question, what the Times op-ed reveals is terrifying. An anonymous senior official in the administration writes that Trump is facing a test to his presidency unlike any faced by a modern American leader. The dilemma, which he does not fully grasp, is that many of the senior officials in his own administration are working diligently from within to frustrate parts of his agenda and his worst inclinations. How about the people in this administration that are not speaking out because Trump is dangerous and scary and mentally unstable? Don't you think that there's any people he's got in his administration now that really would like to speak out?
There could be, but it seems like all the, all his generals have left him. It's kind of like Hitler. He's going more into the bunker mentality, so to speak. And I'm sure there's somebody out there, eventually, just like in Germany, they had the Night of the Long Knives. His administration's going to have the Night of the Long Knives. I don't think he's going to make it through 2019.
You don't think he's going to complete his first 2 years?
I think the stress is getting to him so much because he's had a entire life of alternative universe and being a pathological liar and screwing people out of money. I think it's all karma starting to come into play, and I think it probably have a massive heart attack or a stroke, and they'll take the presidency away from him.
Well, then you're going to have to...
you have Pence.
Pence, yeah.
For about 14 months.
I wonder if he will manage to hang on and get through the first 2 years. I think something like the scenario you mentioned a moment ago, how he's really goofy in the head, and he's a narcissist, so we can't really evaluate him in terms of psychology or psychiatry, because being a personality disorder, like a narcissist, they don't fit anywhere. And it's a thing that isn't treatable, or it's just you got to avoid them or stay away from them and not get involved in anything they're about. But how did we manage to get Trump to be our president today?
Well, there's a couple factors. Bernie Sanders didn't know when to stop, So he's like Ralph Nader in 2000. He gave us Trump because Hillary Clinton was in a 15-round title fight with Bernie. And the smart money in the Democratic Party went with, and the superdelegates was Hillary Clinton. And Bernie Sanders was the outsider and socialist Democrat.
Yeah.
And I'm glad that he got the young people motivated, but they didn't. Not a lot of the young people got motivated to vote. And then, unfortunately, President Obama wasn't able to run for another term. Some of our black brothers and sisters were so disenchanted with Trump and Bernie and Hillary that they didn't vote. So hopefully they will come out and vote in 2020.
Boy, that deep state is so powerful, and I think they are behind the scenes. And the deep state and the mafia, which is synonymous, will manage to still be in control. And as you were implying earlier, that capitalism is a success. Well, it's short-lived in terms of human behavior and groupings and royalty and those kinds of things.
Well, pure capitalism doesn't exist. It's crony capitalism. They have their own little kingdoms, and they maneuver it so they hoard all the dollars.
Where is your money?
My money? It's spread out a little bit. But it's funny you mentioned the mafia, because I always thought Donald Trump, I'm sure he watched when he was younger, the Godfather series, because he thinks it's the mafia Don. I call him Don Corleone Trump. But he's not. He's just a two-bit hustler on the street corner. He's just a whore for $1.
But the effect, I'm really stuck because I don't see how we're going to bring him down and change things. Behind the scenes, working behind the scenes is the mafia kind of an operation and the fascists. And that says it all. So I don't have much hope for surviving his first 2 years. So much for that. Is America on the road to becoming a fascist state? Do you think it's America becoming a fascist state?
I think we're already there.
Yeah.
I mean, look what the Republican Party did to our Native American Indian voters in North Dakota. Restricted their voting rights because they had P.O. box, a regular fixed address. North Carolina, the gerrymandering. I mean, they're just screwing us to death, and we let them get away with it. That's why I don't understand.
Okay, let's switch over to Venezuela, because that's a current thing going on.
Oh, yes, Venezuela. They have the largest oil reserves in the world, and they should be rolling in the dough, but they're not. I know you were a Hugo Chavez fan. I never thought he was.
Still am.
Oh, God. It's just that when the reason why his economy went down, because of hyperinflation, he couldn't jack up their wages fast enough. They had shortages. And then they ran out of their money, so they started borrowing other people's money. And when you run out of people's money to borrow, you just tank. And that's why Russia's going in there to help finance their economy and their oil reserves. And we can't let that happen.
Who's the way you're talking about?
Well, the people who control fossil fuels in the United States, big oil.
And the super rich.
And the super rich.
Is it a conflict between the super rich and those who have nothing and very little of anything?
Yes. There's always
Bottom line, that's what the conflict is about.
Yeah.
What are we going to do about that?
You're not going to do anything about it because it's been happening for hundreds of years.
Yeah,
the super rich has always used the military to get what they want.
Mm-hmm.
You're going to see it in the next couple months down in Venezuela. America is going to go to the aid of one of our countries. That's why they set up the Monroe Doctrine.
Mm-hmm. So that's still working, huh?
Yeah. Well, they just bring it out when they need it.
All right. Is that funny? Illinois Senator Dick Durbin praised President Trump's decision to try to encourage a military coup in Venezuela by withdrawing diplomatic recognition of the country's internationally recognized government. Reporting by the Wall Street Journal and the Washington Post indicates that the Trump administration coordinated with the Venezuelan opposition in order to try to encourage a military coup. Durbin's immediate embrace of Trump's move suggests Durbin may have participated in the Trump administration's planning to encourage a military coup. California Democrat Ro Khanna from Miami, responded to Senator Durbin that the U.S. should not anoint the leader of the opposition in Venezuela during an internal polarized conflict. This is all phony baloney,
Well, they're playing the
CIA
idea.
and the government is desiring that they are going to start the clock turning back again to when they had some degree of autonomy in the countries in Latin America.
The CIA has been messing around Latin America since the early 50s.
Yeah. All right. California Democrat Barbara Lee responded, I am gravely concerned by the Trump administration's interventionist approach toward Venezuela and strongly oppose any U.S. military force in the country. But then Pelosi has endorsed Trump's support of this revolution that's slowly unfolding in Venezuela.
We have to understand we're pivoting out of Iraq, and we have to have something new on the horizon to keep the assembly lines going. There's always the new war or chaos that they have to keep selling.
Mm-hmm.
They're like a bunch of used car salesmen.
All right. So, how about the myth of Israel? You want to talk about Israel?
Israel's a mess.
Well, it seems to be pretty successful. It's a satellite of the U.S.
It is a satellite of the U.S. If it wasn't for America's taxpayers, Israel actually is strong enough to stand on her own. She's the third largest producer of arms in the world, besides the United States and Russia.
Like anything else, is Israel going to fail?
No, we won't let it.
You're sounding goofy because everything fails. Anybody that's so hard and brutal to the rest of its citizenry and the Palestinians.
Well, the only way Israel's going to fail is the Arab countries get on the same wavelength and attack, joint attack. Because they've been buying arms from Russia and China for years. They have enough. They could overwhelm her.
So I can't see how the imperialists are going to allow Israel to allow the Palestinians to reclaim Palestine.
They won't. They're not. Palestine. It's always going to be a mess, and they want it a mess. See, the thing in Syria, what a lot of people don't understand, is one of the largest reserves of natural gas is off the coast of Syria. That's why Russia's coming in. Plus, in the Golan Heights, there's a lot of oil there that hasn't been tapped yet. That's why Israel won't give her up. It's all business.
Oh, man. All right, what are we going to go to next here? Israel, I was going to read about that. Israel has been poisoned by the psychosis of permanent war. Yeah? Chris Hedges wrote this. It has been morally bankrupted by the sanctification of victimhood, which it uses to justify an occupation that rivals the brutality and racism of apartheid South Africa.
And the Nazis.
Yeah. Its democracy, which was always exclusively for Jews, has been hijacked by extremists who are pushing the country toward fascism. Israel? Fascism?
Yes.
Whoa.
It seems to always be in a conflict with our Palestinian brothers and sisters.
Many of Israel's most enlightened and educated citizens, 1 million of them, have left the country. Its most courageous human rights campaigners, intellectuals, and journalists, Israel and Palestinian, are subject to constant state surveillance, arbitrary arrests, and government-run smear campaigns. Its educational system, starting in primary school, has become an indoctrination machine for the military, and the greed and corruption of its venal political and economic elite have created vast income disparities, a mirror of the decay within America's democracy. Now, I'm an American, and I like this kind of democracy that's still budding here, still trying to survive, is going in the other direction. And how are we going to have a Palestinian people who achieve some degree of autonomy and some degree of freedom and take their country back?
I don't know. It's just too much influence from the other countries and Hezbollah and it's just a mess over there. It's always going to be a mess. It's been a mess since through the UN, England and the United States annexed, like we stole land from the Indians.
Yeah.
Took the Arab land away from them and gave it to Israel. Because remember, I believe we did that in June 1946, June 12th and June 13th, the Arabs attacked, and they've been trying to get their land back ever since.
How do you manage to have dates and days, and what a memory you've got?
Well, I read a book called The History of Strategic Air Command, and it was the first time we ever went down to DEFCON 3.
DEFCON 3, yeah. Say a little bit about DEFCON 1, 2, 3, and 4.
Well, when you're at DEFCON 1, you got nuclear exchange. DEFCON 2, you've got everything ready to go. And Curtis LeMay took us to DEFCON 2 behind Kennedy's back during the Cuban Missile Crisis. We had over 200 B-52s at their fail-safe point in what they call a racetrack pattern. You know, being refueled, each one had 2 hydrogen bombs in them.
This is where you had 2 major superpowers in the world, the
Yes.
Russias and America.
And your Atlas missile, at that time, it was the Atlas F and the Titan I, they were out of their silos and fueled, ready to go.
You said the magic word, your Atlas missiles.
Well, you worked on the Atlas missile.
And I'm looking at this scar on this finger here, where we were testing one at Vandenberg, and it blew up, of course. All of them were blowing up at that time. And I rescued a tiny piece of stainless steel and forgot it was in my luggage and reached in to take it out to show it to somebody, and it cut my finger very seriously. So I have fond memories of Vandenberg and the fogs and the missiles blowing up.
They did quite a
Ducking.
bit there. Well, the Atlas was our first ICBM, and because we had the Thor, which we were stationed in England, it was intermediate range.
Yeah.
And but the Atlas was thin skin. It was, they had to put liquid nitrogen in there when it didn't have any fuel because of the rigidity. It was like it's like a football.
What are the boosters' construction now? They have different propellants or what?
Yeah, with different propellants. In fact, Starliner is what Boeing built. It's going to launch on the Atlas IV, which is no longer a gas bag, this spring. I think in April or May is when they're going to do the first test, and then they're launching sometime in February the Falcon 9 with the Dragon 2 in it. It's going to go to the space station, and it's going to be unmanned, and they're going to test out their new system.
Are you going to go down for the launch?
No, but I'm going down next year because they tore down the pads at 17A and B where the Deltas were launched, and 36A and B where your Atlases were launched, but they're rebuilding them. And that's where Bezos is going to launch from 36A and B, his New Origin and New Glenn and New Shepard.
What do you think of Bezos?
He's all right.
Does he have enough money to win the election?
He's got that divorce coming along. He's worth $137 billion, but yeah, he could.
Is there a motivation behind his running for the presidency, or is it to support Trump or the alternative, the Democrats?
I don't think he's going to run. Mm-hmm. He's got other things he wants to do.
Okay.
He wants to make money. He doesn't have any restrictions, but he would probably release his taxes.
Uh-huh.
Of course, it all depends on that divorce settlement. It's going to be costly.
Are we going to ever see Trump's taxes?
The general public won't. A few people will. Mentioned the Secretary of Treasury, I call it the Secretary of Debt, says no. Uh-huh. We won't see him. They'll have executive privilege.
What's going to happen with Mueller's investigation?
Well, hopefully, because since we were born, they've been preaching the American flag and apple pie and the goodness of this country, that they cannot hide the information. We need to see what happened and how they abused their power and also discredited the election.
What about that whole list of cadre in Trump's cabinet, and like even Roy Cohn was involved in his association with Stone and Trump.
Roger Stone.
What a triumvirate.
I know, it's a strange cast of characters, isn't it? They're just a bunch of amateur little mafia guys.
Yeah, so...
It's funny, they're really smart, but they're really stupid because they followed, this guy. He's not very smart. He's just arrogant and ignorant and dumb. But he's rich.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's going to be fun. This summer's going to be a lot of fun. It's going to be like Watergate on Kool-Aid.
Okay. Noam Chomsky says Obama is running biggest terrorist operation that exists. Noam Chomsky said this.
Who's Norm Tom? I don't know who he is.
Noam Chomsky?
No, I don't.
Google Chomsky. You know, Chomsky's a premier leftist intellectual, a professor, and Noam Chomsky.
All right, I have to Google. This is the first time I heard about it.
Okay. On June 21, 2013, Information Clearinghouse, continuing his streak of fiercely criticizing President Obama's foreign policy and civil liberties record, preeminent left-wing scholar Noam Chomsky told Grit TV that this administration is dedicated to increasing terrorism. Obama's administration increasing terrorism throughout the world via its own terrorist drone strikes in foreign lands. Terrorist drone strikes.
He did fire more drone strikes than any other, even more than George W. Bush. It was a very effective deterrent.
Speaking with Grit TV host Laura Flanders about the National Security Agency snooping scandal, Chomsky remarked that, quotes, the Obama administration is dedicated to increasing terrorism. It's doing it all over the world. So do you think in his administration he was increasing terrorism? He continued, Obama is running the biggest terrorist operation that exists, maybe in history. The drone assassination campaigns, which are just part of it, all of these operations, they are terror operations. Drone strikes are terror because Chomsky said the attacks have the effect of terrorizing locals. See, people don't talk about locals anymore.
No, they don't. But during World War II, it's just like aerial bombing.
Yeah.
So we're at war with everybody. But the CIA was the ones that everything I've read, they had a proposal that they would like to strike this area, and then President Obama had the final word, or the President of the United States, of whether they could use that or not during his administration. He did the okay. It came all the way from the White House. So they supposedly, our intelligence had good knowledge that this was a hostile area that needs to be eliminated.
So how do you think Obama stacks up nowadays with what's going on in the world? How did he behave? Could he have behaved differently and have the world turn out differently?
Well, everybody could behave differently, in retrospect, but, at the time, he thought he was doing good. I would hope so.
Well,
I mean, I voted for him twice.
So did I.
I'd vote for him again.
Yeah.
Anything but, I can't believe this guy's president. It's embarrassing.
Well, who's going to run in 20 and for the next presidency? Who's going to run?
Well, you have a cast of characters on the Democratic side. No one stepped up to the plate yet on the Republican side. I think Nikki Haley would be a good candidate.
For the Republicans?
Yes.
Wow, man, that is so goofy.
She's rested. She's ready to go.
Uh-huh.
Trump's going to self-destruct. I mean, he's self-destructing now.
Mm-hmm.
I mean,
who are the Democrats going to settle for in their candidacy?
Well, I don't want to see Brown, the governor from Ohio. He's a Walter Mondale wannabe. Bernie's going to make some noise, but Bernie, you already messed things up. You don't need to go. We don't need Bernie.
Bernie didn't mess things up. The right wing messed things up.
Well, we challenged him, but they didn't want him. The powers that be didn't want him, and he hung in there. I'm really proud that he hung in there, but Bernie,
why didn't you vote for him?
I would have never voted for. I'm not a socialist. Sorry.
Okay, so. Okay, the three global superpowers. I think we've talked about that a little bit before.
Us, Russia, and China?
Yeah, China, Russia, and the U.S. After World War II, until recently, the U.S. clearly dominated the world, not only culturally, but with more influence over the world's other cultures than any other single nation possessed, but also economically, with the Soviet Union with product dominance throughout the world, also militarily tied with the Soviet Union during the Cold War. And then after the Cold War, still possessing such military dominance so that in 2006, America's billionaires as represented by the most prestigious two agencies that represent their collective interests against the public, the Council on Foreign Relations and Harvard University, were actively promoting broadly amongst foreign policy academics the idea that the U.S. should seek to occupy a position of extreme military superiority over Russia, so that since 2006 the concept of nuclear primacy is reflected by America's power centers as being the correct goal for America, going forward, replacing the prior nuclear strategic paradigm since the 1950s of mutually assured destruction, or MAD.
Mad.
Yeah, in which nuclear weapons were, and by Russia still are, seen as purely defensive strategic military assets between the two nuclear superpowers. Weapons whose only actual purpose for either country is to ward off World War III. Well, is World War III still on the horizon?
It could be. You have to understand that Reagan had the largest military buildup since World War II. So we bankrupt Russia. But at the same time, the rich people in this country wanted to make a lot of money, so they went after unions and they started shipping most of our manufacturing overseas. Where did they go? They went to China, built up their economy. So it's shifting now because this country in a way is still suffering from the hangover of the Reagan administration. Iran-Contra-Gate, that's the reason why we're down in Venezuela. Things, Ollie Norris, remember him, and trying to deny everything. That's why we took Noriega out of Panama, because he was playing both sides of the issues, making money on the coke, plus helping the CIA. So he was going to write a book on Reagan and everything, all the dirty tricks that was going on. They took him out. But anyhow, a lot of companies got tax credits to ship their manufacturing overseas to China because that was cheap labor. And so their economy grew. As their economy grew, they were able to buy and research and do better arms. So it's shifting. Now, it's interesting in the Philippines because you got Durant down there. Remember Subic Bay?
Oh, yes.
All right, our big Navy base, right? China wants to buy it, move on in. Can't let that happen.
Is that really what's going on?
Yeah. And he's playing both the Chinese against the United States to get a better hand. I mean,
wow. So that's evidence of the third superpower.
Yes.
What's really going on with China's development and changing through the years?
Well, my dad told my mom in 1946, when he got back from the Pacific and was discharged from the Navy, that one day China would rule the earth. He could see it back then.
What about Russia?
Russia is always going to be like the third cousin with their, you see I hate to say this, but they always have their cup out in their hand, because, Russia makes a lot of things, but they're cheap and they don't work.
Isn't Russia in power, global power, diminishing in importance?
Yes. Mm-hmm. People know Russia's in it strictly for them.
Well, don't they have nuclear weapons? Or is there a merger going on between American interests and Russian interests, such that it's coming to fruition now through Trump's relationship with Putin?
Yes, Trump is Putin's little daisy. He's compromised himself because he was bankrupt and needed some money because the main three financial institutions in New York had been tired of dealing with Trump and his dad, and they knew that he was a bad risk. Why do you think he's trying to pull out of Syria so Russia can come in and take the oil? That's what's going on.
So those two are merging, then we don't have three superpowers. Now, I'm trying to figure this out over a long period of time. How long will this come to fruition? Who will shake out as the two major superpowers? Are there going to really be three for a long period of time?
Well, Russia's diminishing, China's increasing, and we're at a point where we have to reboot and restock the arms. I mean, our Trident submarines are over 30 years old. They're at the end of their lives. It's going to be really expensive to replace. China's smart. They know that they can't match us with carrier task force, so they're gobbling up these little islands and putting landing strips on them. So they're going to attack from there.
Subic Bay, huh?
Yeah.
I never heard that before. It's incredible, yeah. What about the Philippines and what's going on there? crazy right-winger.
He's eventually going to be overthrown.
I don't know.
He's another Mako. It's sad, you know, but yeah. See, what China likes to do is like Argentina or Sri Lanka, they're financially in peril, so they'll give them loans and then just move on in. If you look at Star Trek, The Next Generation, they're like the Borg. They just assimilate. And they're starting to, in Sri Lanka now, they took two ports over that were bankrupt, and that's where they're moving a lot of their Navy ships in because they want to control India, the Indian Ocean and the South China Sea. And it's going to cost us more money because, you know, we're kind of based over here. We got to send the fleet in.
You belong in Washington.
You know, I think I should get back and I should get in politics, but you know, I don't know. I'd have Ann Coulter attacking me on conservative radio.
I thought you were in love with Ann.
Ann's really an intelligent individual. I'm kind of jealous because she went to all of the Dead shows when the Dead got back together in 2015. She saw the two shows in California where the 49ers played, and she went to the two shows in Soldier Field in Chicago. I had to go down to the Roseland Theater to watch it. Yeah.
Well, I'm wondering about Jeremiah Wright. Remember him?
Who?
Jeremiah Wright. He was a minister who had something to say about America. You'll recognize it in a minute.
Did they shoot him too?
Here's a comment about this. Never mind, I'll just read it now. Quotes, "In the United States of America government, when it came to treating her citizens of Indian descent fairly, she failed. She put them on reservations." That's what America did. "When it came to treating her citizens of Japanese descent fairly, she failed. She put them in internment prison camps. When it came to treating her citizens of African descent fairly, America failed. She put them in chains. The government put them on slave quarters, put them on auction blocks, put them in cotton fields, put them in inferior schools, put them in substandard housing, put them in scientific experiments, put them in the lowest paying jobs in them, put them outside the equal protection of the law, kept them out of the racist bastions of higher education, and locked them into positions of hopelessness and helplessness. The government gives them the drugs, build bigger prisons, passes a three-strike law, and then wants us to sing God Bless America. No, 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 not God Bless America. God damn America. That's in the Bible for killing innocent people. God damn America for treating our citizens as less than human. God damn America as long as she tries to act like she is God and she is supreme. The United States government has failed the vast majority of her citizens of African descent." That's why he says, "God damn America." And he really took it.
Yeah, we need Stokely Carmichael, Black Power. I mean, I hate to say it, but if you look through the history of the white race, so how we colonized Africa, in French Indochina, it was Vietnam, it was French Indochina, and then they moved over here and stole the land from the Indians. In fact, in Canada, they're trying to make this pipeline down through the central part of Saskatchewan and county. The native Indians are fighting them because it's their territorial lands. And just like, what we did in North Dakota on voting rights and then the Keystone Pipeline.
What do you think of God Bless America as an idea?
I'm still waiting to be blessed by America.
We got to stop because we're running out of time now. But let's have you say something to the camera about, to the viewers, about whatever we talked about here, anything else.
Well, I want to show them a picture here.
All right.
First, I'll show you this picture. This is Donald Trump. This is a 5-time draft dodger, that don't pay his taxes, almost a 3-time loser at marriage, trying to protect us from our Latino brothers and sisters and the wall. What he should have done is take his pants off and just BA'd America the way he treated everybody that didn't have a job the last 30 days.
You got a few seconds left.
All right. I want to show you this picture. This is the moon, and this is the Earth from Apollo 17. Do you see the picture of the Earth? There's no strings holding up. This is all we got. And if we continue to burn coal, pollute the Earth, overpopulate, heat up the oceans, and put Monsanto products into the soil where people are coming to cancer, we're not going to make it. We need to protect the Earth because it's the only thing that we got.
All right, so much for that now.
Yes.
And now let's have a few public service announcements. And to learn about the nation, go to www.thenation.org and learn about that marvelous publication. It's the oldest one. To learn more about the American Civil Liberties Union, and the ACLU has been a hero of mine for many, many years, go to that website. To learn more about the Alliance for Democracy, Our Democracy, go to the national website at the www. To learn how to end corporate personhood, go to move2amend.org. Amend the Constitution so that the Constitution says that corporations are not persons and money is not speech. Thanks for watching. And remember KFC, not that KFC, Dr. Don's KFC. Kind, friendly, and charitable. Be kind, be friendly, and be charitable. To you too. And you too. And you too.
Republican Party right here, the screw. You can have it.
Thank you.